Welcome back everyone, I'm Hannah from Crafted in the Valley, and today we're going to be testing out Teckwrap's puff vinyl but in some pastel colours. I'm really excited to try these pastel HTVs on this purple kids jumper, so let's get stuck into it. I've got my kids jumper here ready to go, so we'll just fold that up and set that off to the side. Got a couple of different colors to try of the puff HTV, and I'm so excited. So we've got the Barbie pink, which of course very on trend at the moment with the Barbie movie out, and then we've got the puff turquoise, we've got the light salmon, which I actually really love this color. I think it's really different, so I'm keen to see what that looks like actually on a garment. And then we've got the pale green. So I haven't even opened these ones yet, so let's open them up and get stuck into it. And I love unwrapping new vinyls, whether or not it's adhesive vinyl or HTV, there's just something like super satisfying about it. So let's open these babies up and we'll get started. And as you can see, all of these rolls have their signature red Teckwrapcraft sticker on there, which is perfect for storage of your vinyls when you're not using them, just to hold them together. So what I'm going to do is get my vinyls all cut here. I'll show you the design very, very soon, I promise. But it does take the 4 different colors. I wanted to try and showcase all 4 of them at the same time, which I'm hoping is going to look really, really nice. So of course, I'm going to put my red stickers back on my vinyls. And now we're up to putting the HTV onto a cutting mat. So I'm going to be using a new strong grip mat today, just to make sure the HTV doesn't move when I put it in my machine. So what you're going to do is take your HTV, and you can see the glossy side is actually the carrier sheet, and the non-glossy side is the HTV which you want to cut. So you just need to make sure you put the glossy side down on the mat, and luckily my mat being brand new is nicer and sticky, and the vinyls are sticking on there really, really nicely. And what I did with Cricut Design Space is just change the designs to all the same color so I could get them all on the one mat. So I'm going to use my roller just to make sure I flatten down that HTV nice and flat, so there's no chance of bubbles underneath that are going to affect the cut once it's in my machine. So I've got all 4 of my colors on there ready to go. Let's get it in my Cricut Maker 3 and get it cutting. For this cut as well today, I'm using the glitter iron-on setting on my Cricut Maker 3. I find that it's just a deeper cut, being that the puff vinyl is a little bit thicker. That might vary depending on your machine, but I have found it worked really well in the past for me, so I use that same setting again today. So I've got my pieces all cut ready to go. I'm going to take them off of my mat, and make sure you put the plastic protective sheet back on your sticky mat as well, so just to help preserve it and make sure it stays nice and clean for the next time you need to use it. So I've got my vinyls all cut here, ready to go. Time to weed them, and I'm so happy with the colors. I can't wait to see what it looks like once it's weeded. So I'm going to use my weeding tool pen just to lift off the corner, and then gradually peel back the HTV off of the carrier sheet. And I'm weeding this in real time as well, so this isn't sped up at all, and you can see how nicely it's actually peeling away from the carrier sheet. I'm not pulling overly hard at all to get it away from the carrier sheet. That does obviously vary depending on your cutting machine and if you've cut it properly through the first time, but I have found with the puff HTV from Teckwrap that it is so easy to weed, and it peels away really easily from the carrier sheet. It just makes working with it really nice and easy, and you don't have to worry about stressing over things not cutting properly or spending too much time weeding things. So I'm really impressed with it. So I've got my first piece all ready to go, and I'm really happy with how the colors are looking so far. So I'm just going to speed up the process of weeding the other colors just to get everything ready to rock and roll for pressing. The next question is going to be, which color is my favorite? I think I have quite a few of the puff vinyls now, some of the darker colors and now the pastels, and I often lean towards the pastels, but that's because I've got 2 young children myself and do a lot of things for them, but also, you know, presents and things like that where pastel colours are always so lovely to work with, but especially with this project being a sort of pastel purple jumper, I think the pastel colour puff HTV is actually really going to complement the purple of the jumper. At least that's what I'm hoping. So let's get the rest of these ones all weeded and ready to go. So the project is a few affirmation quotes of I am, and it's for a present for a friend's daughter for her birthday. So I'm hoping this is really going to give her a bit of a confidence boost. But with the quotes themselves, they weren't in the right order. So I'm just going to switch them around and put them in the right order. But the carrier sheets are still currently rectangle, but the quotes are curved. So this is the order that they need to go in, but you can see here the carrier sheet or carrier sheets for all of them, they will actually overlap, and that just won't do because you don't want anything to obviously get in the way of the HTV actually adhering to your garment. So what I'm going to do is just grab my scissors and just by hand trim sort of underneath and then over the top of the quotes, just to make sure they all sort of sit nicely all together, as I really want to try and press them in one go so that the puff, hopefully all the puff rises at the same level. Because if you press puff vinyl separately, if you've got a couple different ones on the go on your one garment, you might find that some of them are a little bit puffier than others. So I want to make sure these ones are exactly the same, so it looks nice and coherent over the whole project. So I'm just going to trim these and then put them back into place of where they need to go. Okay, so now I've got my carrier sheets all trimmed down so they will fit much nicer when I put them all together, so I can do one single press. I can now get my garment ready for pressing. So I'm using a lint roller on the jumper to begin with, just to remove any stray lint that might get in the way of the adhesive and the jumper. You don't want anything to sort of be stuck underneath your HTV. And then also use whatever you're pressing with, whether or not it's an auto press or a heat press like this one, a mini press, whatever, to preheat your garment just to remove any excess moisture that might be in the fabric. Again, that can stop the adhesive of the HTV from really activating properly. So always warm up your garment beforehand. And then I'm just going to use my sort of ruler here to guide where I'm going to place the first piece of my HTV, and then once that top one's in place, I'm just going to use that as a guide to place the other ones directly underneath. So I think I chose the colours nicely as to what order they need to go in, but you know, each to their own really. But I'm really happy with how it turned out, so I'm going to get these all on the garment ready to go, and I'm happy with how it's going to look. You could even use, say for example, a project like this, some heat resistant tape to hold down the carrier sheets, which looking back now probably would have been a really good idea, but hey, it still worked. So now I'm going to get my heat press onto the HTV. So I'm using my Cricut heat press 130 degrees Celsius for 10 seconds. It does not need much. And depending on how hot your heat press is or how long you press it for might determine how puffy it does actually look. But now I can start to get my carrier sheets off, and you can see how easily it peels away. And I'll try and get a close up here. So it doesn't even really peel away, it just almost falls off the carrier sheets. Once that HTV is pressed onto your garment, it is on there, which I think is really cool. It sort of gives you that bit of confidence to know that it has adhered to your project properly. And look how cool that is. I'm always so impressed with the puff HTV, how it looks once it's on the garment. But what I'm going to do, just in case, is actually get my Teflon sheet and place it over my garment again, and just do a second press just to be sure. But if you are going to do a second press on any sort of HTV, make sure you do use a Teflon barrier sheet just to make sure you're not putting the heat press directly on the HTV. And there you go. That's my finished project with the Pastel Puff HTV from Teckwrap. I am in love with it. I hope you've really liked today's tutorial and the showcase of the new colours of the pastels. I'm in love. I think I'm going to use them a lot. So I'm really happy with the product. Thank you so much, Teckwrap. We will see you next time, everyone. Bye.